Hello, everybody, and welcome to our third Thursday competition. I am Will Terry.
And I'm Lee White.
And we are missing Jake Parker tonight. He is on the beach somewhere in Connecticut. He's probably in his hotel room right now because it's probably 11 o'clock there. Hopefully he's not still on the beach.
Yeah.
So it's just going to be Lee and I tonight. And before we get going, we'd like to talk about what Third Thursday is for those who might have joined us for the first time or those who are joining us on YouTube. Third Thursday is a once-a-month competition that we offer at svslearn.com where we have one entry per person. We give a prompt, and that prompt is usually something that deals with the publishing industry for children's books or comic books or basically visual storytelling. And then it is a little bit more specific and a little bit more in-depth than maybe just illustrating a word, which the reason we do that is so that it's more like an actual job that you might have, so that it's a piece that you might find that you might be able to put in your portfolio.
Yep, and you could also build on top of if you've got a good narrative. We've had a lot of entries that almost look like the starting point of something that students can run with. So your portfolio is not just populated with one hit, but has some sequential images as well.
That's right. We also have the rules listed on our website at svslearn.com. I thought I would just kind of jump in here and show you real quick. We are going to end up changing our blog, but if you haven't seen our Third Thursday posts, you can go down here. This is just on the home page, right? It says at svslearn.com, and if you scroll down to the bottom, click for more blog posts, and you can see our past prompts that we've had, and there's several pages of those, and this is this July 3rd Thursday. The prompt that we're going to be critiquing tonight: after being stranded for months, Willie could not believe who was here to rescue him, so that's what we're going to be critiquing. That prompt was actually given in June, and then people have a month to do it. Anybody can enter. We usually have one winner and an unspecified number of honorable mentions, and then we get to pick which ones we want to critique. And tonight we decided to do this a little bit differently, where we're actually going to go over all of them. We're not going to do as an in-depth critique as we normally do on just a few of them. There's several reasons why we kind of decided to do this. What were those reasons, Lee?
The reasons were there's so much to talk about on each one, and while I think it's a great thing to go through and finish an illustration and really put some polish on it, kind of like we've been doing up to this point. There's pros and cons to all of them, and since Will doesn't know what I'm going to say, and I don't know what Will's going to say, we thought it'd be interesting to just show them all, and then you guys can hear us. Maybe me and Will will argue about one of them or two of them or more, because there's no exact science to this. But Will and I are both working illustrators, and so hopefully it'll be beneficial to hear both points of view.
Yeah.
And if we agree on something, if we disagree on something, I thought it would be good to kind of hear what our initial reaction is. We haven't talked about it beforehand. We just wanted it to be a little more off the cuff. And honest, a real honest critique, and then so everybody can get some feedback on this one. And we thought we'd see how you guys like it. If you like it better, then that's just doing a few drawovers. Maybe we switch it to this as being the main format or whatever. So we're just trying it out.
Yeah, so we're going to go quicker than we normally do, and we might not talk about some. Now, the point of this is that we help the most amount of people possible. And so one of the things that we were pontificating about today as we were choosing the honorable mentions is that sometimes we end up critiquing the same persons. So that's happened before. And there's a lot of people that we feel have never gotten a critique. And we see a lot of the same examples or the same mistakes being made on a lot of them. But also we see that there's a lot of people that look like they're starting out, and then there's a lot of people kind of in the middle, and then there's some more advanced people. We often talk about the more advanced stuff, but we don't talk about the stuff that's maybe more starting out, right? So we kind of want to hit it all tonight. So I think the first thing we're going to do, well, before we get started, there was one thing that I wanted to talk about real quick, and that is, as we're going through these tonight, there's two things that we're looking for basically, and that is, does it have a really good concept? And also, is it executed well? Now, some of the honorable mentions that we've chosen, they have good art. The art is executed fairly decently, but the concept is suffering. And some of the pieces that we've chosen, the concept is really good, but the art is suffering. And some of them, they're functioning on both levels. So as you're going through these, or as we're going through the honorable mentions, just note that we're not saying that they're perfect. We're not saying that they're 100% better than someone else's. It's just that was our impression. So let's go through the honorable mentions. Should we do the honorable mentions first? Or should we do show all of them and then kind of go through? I think we should probably show all of them.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's do that. One thing that I was going to say before we get going, do you remember this? Do you know what that is?
I don't know what it is, but I'm interested. What is that?
Do you remember Google Glass?
Oh yeah, wasn't it a big flop?
Yeah, huge flop. Okay, so and this is a lesson that I think a lot of people need to take away from this tonight is what we were talking about earlier when we were looking through these is we saw a lot of images where it looks like the focus was put on the art but not the concept. So sometimes you don't always know if your concept's going to go over well, and sometimes you have to do some trial and error, and you're not always going to know. But know this, that the concept, I mean, Google spent billions or millions and millions, if not billions of dollars on Google Glass, and it was a huge flop from a company who is got their act together. So it can, the lesson to me there is it can happen to anybody. Don't sweat it. If we say something derogatory or negative about your concept, it's not working or something, don't freak out. Big, huge companies still make conceptual failures, right? I mean, Google Glass was banned in casinos and nightclubs and restaurants and places where they just didn't want people with video cameras. So it just got this horrible send off. So with that,
I should add to that kind of analogy that we get critiques that are, I don't want to say hard, but we get critiques that are, when you're a professional, everybody just expects you to be able to draw well and concept well, so they do not care about your feelings anymore.
right.
Like, so I just received a 32-page picture book, the first round of revisions, and I thought I nailed the dummy that I sent them, and they liked it. They did say they liked it, but there's revision notes on every single page, and they're quite extensive on some of the pages, or they cut some of my pages out and said reconcept this because of this other thing, and so it's just something you get used to. But if you're not used to it yet, you might think that you're getting beat up a little bit, but you're not. We all get it. No matter what level you get to, you will always get it.
Mm-hmm.
So we still get it. So I just wanted to throw that out there.
Yep.
Zach is asking, as we scroll through these, can we know what the prompt is going to be for next month, or are we saving that for the grand finale? Typically we do that at the end, but I'm not. I know we got some people that stay on really late, and maybe under different time zones. So what do you think, Will, about?
Well, we'll post it tomorrow, or it'll be posted tomorrow. So you'll still have a month. Yeah, we want to put that at the end.
Yeah.
And get going on this, but I appreciate that. We definitely will talk about that tonight. So I'm just kind of flipping through all the entries that we received, and one of the rules is that we need to receive these the day before they're due. And again, those rules are on our website on the prompt. And if you miss that, it's at the beginning of the video where we show you how to find that. Hopefully we get a better organization on our site down the road. It's one of our lists of things to do. So just kind of looking, some really fun ideas. And then some ideas that we didn't quite understand. One of the things that I might mention is we are always probably going to disqualify for honorable mentions or for the winner um, if you rewrite the prompt. So the idea is that you actually illustrate this prompt, and it's cool, if you want to rewrite it and do it. But for this competition, we're going to choose the illustrations that actually illustrate the prompt that we give, and we do like it when people include that the text in their image. Um, it's not always necessary, but it's very
For a
helpful.
prompt like this, it's very helpful
It's
to
very
see it in
helpful.
there, just because sometimes it's tough to tell what's going on without it.
Right. Yep.
I did want to add one of the other things that I wanted to talk about why me and Will are doing it this way this month. I wanted to put the focus on some of the classes that we have at SVS and also offer all the students some recommendations, because a lot of times as beginning and intermediate students, the tough part is the question of what do I do next? I don't know what to focus on. And as we add so many videos, or you might be in a local school, brick and mortar school, what classes do you take? What do you focus on? And what I'd like us to focus on with each piece towards the end of them is saying, hey, what does this artist need to do next? Like, what's the big takeaway from each piece? And by getting to go through each one of them, it'll give us a chance to recommend either some SVS classes or just where your art might go.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So we'll see. And again, we'd love to hear from you in our forums too, whether you like this format. The chat is also nice, but we might miss it as we're critiquing, and we probably, since we're both going to be engaged tonight, there's a good chance we're going to miss stuff that's going on in the chat. But we do want to know if you like this format better or if you like what is it, our normal format.
Yeah, be helpful.
Yeah.
We're always tweaking stuff, trying to make it better.
Yep. And we might do a hybrid. We might do where we only critique or do drawovers on, three of them instead of six, and spend the rest of the time going through more of them, just verbally kind of talking about them. So, okay, so that's the end. And here are our honorable mentions. And we'll just go through these, and I think we have 14 of these. So one from Becky Hirsch, and then Bronson Decker, and then Chip, Damien. So some really, really fun ideas and some nice rendering on some of these. And so,
I appreciate you guys even using the right naming too. That seems like a small thing, but there's nothing more frustrating than when we go to critique it and it just says final.jpg or
right.
something like that. So appreciate
Yeah,
seeing the
and I
names.
see like Jason up in the corner. It's just easier for us. It's more organized. We don't have to go in and try to do some sleuth work on figuring out, the email and trying to rename the file ourselves. Kevin, right there. And Lee, you said that you saw this one in the forums and helped Kevin
Yeah,
in the forums with
we
that one.
worked on that. Yeah, we worked it out.
Marina, yeah, and then Nicoletta, and then Rowan. Very nice work. Scott, and finally Simona. Okay, so let's let the fun begin. And I think what we're just going to do, just going to go through these and give kind of our impression, right?
Yeah.
So my impression on this is just initially, and I think what we'll try to do, since we can't spend 10 minutes on each one, is kind of hit the main things. We're probably going to leave some stuff out. And that's okay, because
this is kind of the big gut instinct, first read.
right.
And this is just me and Will reacting to it. Like I said, it's not an exact science, and Will might think one thing, and I think something different, and you think something totally different than both of us.
And if we
So
don't,
don't beat us up.
and if we don't say something that was wrong about it, and someone else says it in the chat, it doesn't mean that we don't agree or that we don't think that it's wrong or that we miss. It's just that we're giving you the main thing, not all the things. And for me on this one, probably the biggest thing is I feel like the texture is super heavy for this form in the foreground, and I feel like it takes over the gracefulness of that pose. So that's kind of
It's a nice looking pose. It'd be a great spot illustration. For me, again, and I'm coming at this like by basically putting myself in the shoes of I'm an art director. I'm looking through a bunch of images trying to find an illustrator to hire. And this one, I love the initial concept of it. This kind of Nautilus like water scene, and being rescued in the boat. I feel like he left a lot on the table in terms of drama, because it's basically it's the moment after he's been rescued, and it's kind of just tugging him to shore. So there's not a lot of action here. I think with this character there's a lot of opportunity. That said, with this character, I feel like there's two characters that are completely from different artists in this scene. This beautiful blue guy in the front, and then almost a cartoon version of a drawing in the background. It's almost like two different artists did it.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like a lot was left on the table back there. Now the problem with doing traditional art is maybe that head, I don't know what the actual size of this is, so maybe that head is barely bigger than the size of your pencil lead. You ever have that happen, Will?
Oh yeah.
Doing traditional art where it's so small, but you got to figure out how to make a small head read in the same style as the rest of it, because there's one character that's drawn well and the other character hasn't really been approached at the same level.
Yep. Okay, next.
There's a question. We're not going to answer a lot of questions from the chat, but you guys can talk amongst yourself and also answer each other's questions. Somebody did say, what's a spot? And a spot illustration, most of you guys, we've gone over that at SBS a little bit in one of the Third Thursday competitions. But a spot is basically a small illustration within the confines of the bigger page, just takes up a little portion of it.
That's right. Okay, you want to give your first impression on this one?
The first thing that I notice is again, and you guys might hear some repetitive things, but there's a lot of kind of basic stuff that we really want to hammer home. And the first one was, the concept. I don't know I don't understand the concept per se. It's not like a Tarzan character, so I don't get the concept just right off the bat. Even kind of looking at it for a while, I don't really understand. I haven't actually read the text yet either.
Well, and the text has changed, and that's something that we kind of don't want you to do. I mean, you're free to do whatever you want, but if you want to make it into the honorable mentions, we're probably not going to pick it if you change it. The idea on this is that we're trying to play art director by giving the prompt, and so if you get a story from an editor, they're not going to let you change the text. You have to illustrate the text they give you. So that would be my main takeaway on this one. Again,
but this one could work within the confines of the text. I mean, they did change the text. They didn't change it too drastically where it still fits the same bill. And I guess the overall drama isn't there for me. And the reason being is if there's going to be these two kids and this grand heroic rescue from this unexpected character like the little sister, there's so many other places to go with it besides a straight-on view. And then that view is like cut right down the center. So even though they're swinging on a vine, it's just a vertical line. So they've missed all the opportunity to put action into this pose. And I'm not saying you have to have perspective. I don't use perspective in quite a bit of my work. But you do have to think about the angles and how one thing plays off the other and kind of what you're trying to say. So you've shown us what the text is saying, but I think more concept go into it. That would be my hit.
Agreed. And also, I might add one more thing. The ship looks empty, and in an illustration that's this whimsical, it's okay to put a character out there. And I'm wondering, I think it confuses me, is the sister already arrived? If so, is the boat anchored, but I don't see an anchor line? Why are they both swinging on the vine together? I think it asks as many questions as it answers. And one thing that you're going to find as we go through these is concepts need to be oversimplified. one thing that I find with my students at UVU constantly is that, and this is something that I did when I was in school, we, for some reason, the beginning illustrator overcomplicates solutions. It's almost like I'd have my class and I'd tell them, I would go through this and I would tell them, you guys are overcomplicating. You're telling all kinds of stories in your illustration. And yet they would still do that. And someone would do a really simple one and I would just rave about it, and then I'd ask the students, what do you guys think? And they're like, well, it just seems too simple. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Communication needs to be simple. The people will understand and they'll enjoy it if they can understand it quickly, if it reads really quickly. You don't need to illustrate a lot of extra things in there. Okay, so and then this one from Becky. One of the things, my first impression on this one was I really love the color, and I like the angles and the light. I feel like this one is overcomplicated a little bit just with how many fish. I think with the red down here, this is beautiful down here. This little fish. Can you see my cursor?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Okay, good. So I think these two little fish are awesome down here. But then I just don't think we need this many over here, and then we certainly don't need these up here. Remember, on the edge of your image, the image edge, if you put a hot spot like that, you're creating a focal point right on the edge of the image, and that's taking the eye into a place that's not really important. The main concept is these fish have come to rescue these other fish from the tank and get them away from the sleeping cat. And you need to do that as simply as possible. I don't think we need the whole school, even though that's kind of a cool idea. I think maybe one bigger fish, maybe a few fish over there, maybe three rescuing, but I think they should be over by the windowsill. What do you think, Lee?
I agree. I want to add to this one in one second. Can you go back to the one previously? Because I want to build on a concept. So one of the things about this particular prompt is that there's somebody being rescued from something. There's somebody being saved from something. And the storytelling that goes into that is there's a need to change your situation. Right? The main character in the scene wants to change their situation. So going back to what Will's saying, the concept here and the empty boat, that's the first thing that I thought about too, is other than the compositional stuff that I talked about, is where's the threat? Why does this boy need saving? As a viewer, I want to feel that the boy needs saving. There's no pirates out there on the
Are
boat.
his clothes tattered? Does he look dehydrated and skinny and malnourished?
Yeah, I want to see all the pirates out there. I want to see what he's escaping from, and they're mad that he's escaped, and maybe they're going to come after him. Like, that's some storytelling that all of a sudden now you've given our character a consequence, and that should be first and foremost in your mind while you're doing an image like this. Is this person or this animal, this character needs to leave this situation? How can I make the viewer understand that it's imperative that they leave the situation? So go to the next one, the goldfish one. Mm-hmm. So the same thing here is there's an implied idea like this goldfish has to get out of there. If the cat was going to eat the goldfish, that would be a reason to rescue the goldfish. But right now I feel like it's kind of an aquarium, and there's not a reason to save the fish, because it looks like a pretty nice setting for a goldfish.
Right, because the cat really can't get in there. There's a lid. Maybe if it was a bowl where the cat could reach in or something, where there's a danger.
Yeah,
that's a
some kind of need for this character to change their situation. That goes into just basic storytelling that you then build your illustration around. Somebody was talking about in the chat about this, that they're just reading the fake goldfish up the top. I think that's a great detail, but like Will said, because there's all these other goldfish, that's a point that gets lost on the viewer. So I wonder if there's a simpler element between the fake goldfish, the real goldfish, maybe the one goldfish that's rescuing our hero down here, and then an aggressive cat. And like, you mix those three things or four things together or whatever, and you got the ingredients for a fantastically dramatic illustration.
If the cat is trying to get up to the bowl, it would create a lot more tension. If the cat was down on the ground, and it's trying to reach up and trying to jump up, and it's you know, is it going to get the fish before the fish get rescued? That kind of tension is makes for really good storytelling. So we need that kind of thing. So we're going to keep
I like
moving.
the concept, and I like the lighting. By the way, I like that soft glow. I think you guys are doing a number of stuff right. And by the way, so me and Will, when we're reacting real quick, please again, we said it before, but don't feel beat up. We're
Yeah.
just like the exact thing that comes to mind, and hopefully you guys are okay with that.
And with the time tonight, we're going to have to glance over some of these if we don't spend as much time. Just understand that we're trying to help the most amount of people. So this one doesn't really include the prompt, and um, for me, it was hard to tell what was actually going on with the shadow. Is this someone coming to club this little character, or is it? I just
Yeah,
don't see rescue.
implied rescue. It's got to be a rescue. So I was really confused by it, and
Yeah,
it's unfortunate too because I think technically I like the line quality
yeah. There's a lot of neat stuff.
some of the art stuff that's going on here. Really nice job.
Yeah.
I would work on. Remember I said we were going to give him recommendations, so maybe we should do
Well,
like one
compositionally, you've
recommendation.
got the same shape on one side as the other, the same pile of stuff, same size, and then it's kind of symmetrical. So, not that symmetry is bad, but in this case, I don't think. Usually, there's a formal reason for symmetry in an image, and in this one, I don't see it. So, I think it would be more interesting if the characters were placed in different locations. Also, with the two basic focal points, you've got this character and then the shadow. That's one of the most, just if everybody can just hear this, that's one of the hardest things to design is two main focal points, because you either look at one or the other, and two is a horrible design number. So you've got to figure out a third point of interest to get in there, something else, some other thing that usually and probably should help tell the story, because just throwing some other point of interest in there will often detract from the story. So it's got to be something that's integral to the story.
I like the big versus small. I mean, there's some things going on here, but that composition is absolutely killing you. It's right down the center vertically, and then it's right in the middle horizontally as well, with the horizon line and the edge of the room. So I would tell this student to work on their concepting first and foremost, because the story's not coming across.
Hmm.
But secondly, work on composition after that. You get the story and composition. I think their drawing skills actually fine.
Yep.
Looks good.
Okay. And on this one, we were talking about this one earlier today. The watercolor texture is really fun, and the colors are really fun, but we didn't quite get the concept. We couldn't quite tell if the plant was being rescued or if
The plant was saving the guy who's
this,
in the ship, kind of like a what was that Matt Damon movie? Had to grow his own food.
The Martian.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
so the concept is vague, and compositionally, color-wise, it's really interesting. Having this one spot color of green with that complements against the orange is really nice. So, but it's so symmetrical. Again, we don't need all this out to the sides. It could have been a vertical, cropped in more, and it would work better. Um, but again, think to the Google Glass. If and this is the way I work my images. If I don't have a good concept, I just keep working little doodle sketches and ideas until I have a concept that I feel will work. And sometimes if I can't come up with that concept, I'll just shelve that one for a while and work on something else. Because if I don't have a good idea, no matter how much time I spend on the art, it's never going to hit someone and impact them emotionally. If I can't change them emotionally, then as an artist, I've failed. So that's
Or
what you,
even hook them emotionally,
yeah,
and then I mean, if you can change somebody emotionally, that's awesome. But you got to be able to at least get the hook in to say, for a viewer to want to know more.
right.
This one, just like the last one, I agree with Will. The watercolor palette is really nice, and it's minimalistic, and I'm a big fan of that. The composition, if you guys want to try a little exercise, take your hand and put it right in the center over the ship and the plant, everything on both sides of your hand is meaningless to the image,
Yeah.
not contributing to the whole. And so if I can just block one little part of the image and the rest of the image doesn't contribute in any way, compositionally, narratively, even just graphic design, it needs to be reworked.
Yep.
So I would, again, go for the concept class and then work on your clarity of what's happening moving forward for this student.
Mm-hmm. Another thing to maybe study is like Gary Larson. Um, let's see. We got
It has a
somebody that
Gary
just,
Larson kind of feel.
what's that? Yeah, because
I can see that.
Gary Larson, in his little comics, he figured out a way to communicate an idea without any words, and really, you should almost be able to do that. Now, some concepts and some assignments, you really do need the words as well, but it is amazing if you can get your viewer almost all the way there without the words, so that they can just see what's going on really quickly, and that's the goal. Okay, so after being stranded for months, Willie could not believe he was here to rescue him. So I thought this one communicated really well. Number one, we know that this woolly mammoth has been locked in ice for millions of years, and through the powers of supernatural abilities, he's still alive. So that makes it kind of a twist and kind of funny. I got it right away. The part I didn't quite get was why he couldn't believe who was here to rescue him. So, and I think that when Jake wrote the prompt, and unfortunately Jake's not here to defend his prompt, I think he was looking for some irony in the person coming to rescue him. And in this image, I'm not seeing it. Do you see it, Lee?
I don't see it with him, and I think Jake was looking for either irony or fear or some kind of big emotion that is going to change how the viewer feels about who the rescuer is.
Right, like maybe a caveman out here that's got a barbecue pit ready to go.
There you go.
You know, something where it's like, of all the people that are here to carve me out of this ice, it's this person that's going to eat me. And that's just one possible dumb idea. But I mean, I think you have to put yourself into the concept and really try to figure out, or into the prompt, and try to work the story through and ask yourself a lot of questions about it and talk it through. Like, after being stranded for months, couldn't believe who was here to rescue me. Why couldn't he believe? And you've got to brainstorm and come up with ideas of what would be the ironic answer to this solution.
And by the way, that's why some of these assignments are hard that we're giving it to you, because it's not just a drawing assignment, it's a writing assignment. Yeah. You're going to scrap you're going to go through a lot of paper just writing stuff down, not talking about drawing yet.
Right.
I mean, exactly like Will said, the easy kind of kick for this one is go back and ask yourself, why can't the elephant believe this person is the one saving him? And there's not a good reason that the elephant would be surprised.
I'm actually doing this with my book that I just started with Random House right now, and the author Marjorie Kyler wrote the book so that there's a lot of ambiguous writing on purpose so that it could be figured out. And she gave suggestions in the notes, but they're totally leaving it up to me to come up with the ideas. And we might use some of hers and we might use some of mine, but there are little prompts that basically just like this that have to be figured out. What would communicate the idea the clearest, and also what would be funny for kids to look at and read. And I can't come up with them right away, and some of them I can't come up with in a day, so I move on to the next one. And I think about it when I'm riding my bike or on a walk, or wherever, sitting in the family room. I'm constantly trying to think of and I'll even ask other people, what would you do for this?
Can you go back for just 1 second? I want a couple more things I wanted to say. By the way, so everybody should, based on what Will was just saying, and my own experience as well, concepting tons of different stuff, is after a month, these contests are month long when we give the prompt, and you have a month basically to do it. There should be so many discarded ideas on your drawing table things that worked, things that you wrote out and didn't go anywhere past even just a word, and then other things that got to the sketch phase and you said, that's not funny, that's not scary, that's not intense, that's not enough. So hopefully there's a lot of carnage behind you
Hmm.
with each image. Sometimes it's a hard one. Sometimes you get it right away and you still go through the process, but you get it. But I'm hoping that there's a lot of stuff left on the table.
You've got to suffer.
Until one, yeah, until
You've
you
got
get
to
to the one
suffer
that
for
wears
your
the.
art. Hmm.
If you're showing us your first one, you're not doing enough work. And I'm not saying that was the first one for that person. I really like that concept. The one recommendation I was going to give at the end of that was I would tell that person to take the color class, because this is a great image to add some. You don't got to go too saturated with it either,
Hmm.
but to add some intense blues, maybe some warm light off that torch. It's dying for that, and the composition is nice. I love the interaction between the elephant and the rescuer
Hmm.
in terms of the size relationships and all that. You could do so much with color and value here. So that would be my recommendation for this student is push the values a little bit, and then maybe look at that color class that we just released a month ago or whatever.
Some little highlights, little perfectly white highlights to sell the fact that it's ice melting. Uh,
Yeah.
yep. This one they changed the concept a little bit, the rewrote it, and so we really can't critique that because it's it didn't follow the assignment, but there's some nice things going on with the watercolors and um, nice
Yeah,
textures and things like
execution
that.
is nice. The media control is nice. I want just to pull out the crop tool in Photoshop and get right in there. You don't have to go right in on the character so they fill up the whole scene. But man, there's a lot of empty space here that the artist spent a lot of time drawing that I don't necessarily think add to the overall scene. What do you think, Will? Would you
Yeah,
zoom in a little bit on that?
yeah. It's the main characters are too small, I would say. This is now. Here's another thing, and this was actually something that my wife said because she listens to our critiques sometimes, and she was a school teacher, and she's always into the scope and sequence, and she's like, I don't know if you're preparing people to take this prompt enough. And one of the things that I constantly hear you say is that this is a one-off, that this image should function on its own, and maybe people are thinking that this is a part of the story, and that is true. One of the ideas that I think that I at least have for this competition is that you have one image to sell your concept on, just one image. This isn't part of a story, an ongoing story where there's going to be images before and after. This is the image that you have to sell the story. So you need to make the most impact as possible. So when you make your main character is this small, they lose impact. So in that, I think
This is a lovely image if it's midway through. It almost looks like a page maybe from a graphic novel. Like I could see the other page maybe being some, foreshadowing up to this moment, and maybe after it there's a couple of small panels, and this gets a full panel here. Really lovely. There's some beautiful media work here. Um, like Will said, I don't feel like a gargoyle is opening the wing for the girl. It's almost like the girl has intruded just looking at that little intimate scene there, which I think is lovely, lovely rendering style
hmm
and color. I just don't think the gargoyle looks involved. The gargoyle looks a little surprised, or not surprised, like not startled, but like the girl just kind of walked up and lifted the wing, and the gargoyle is a passive participant in the scene.
hmm
Do you agree with that?
yeah, we don't know whether he's going to get ticked and just destroy her or if he's like okay with it. I think you have to be more deliberate in your illustration. Don't create questions, answer questions.
And this artist, I think, is I mean, got a great facility and great control of the media. I would just say play around with the compositions and telling your story a little bit more. That's a confident piece right there, and execution just the story needs to come forward.
Right. Okay, Lee, if we're going to get through these tonight, we're going to have
I
to go a
know.
lot quicker.
Are we not?
Okay.
We're doing great. Are we taking too long?
Yeah, because we're not with the number that we have, we'll never get through. We'll be here for
All
three
right, all
hours.
right.
So this one, I would just briefly say, we've seen work from. This is an ongoing story from Cheryl, and there's some really nice things. We've talked about this style before, but this one's. I'm not sure if it I mean, I guess it illustrates the prompt, but I know it's also part of her ongoing story. Um, and so, yeah, it's neat. And
It's good. The rendering around the character, it looks like a different illustration than the seagull.
yeah,
And
and
just be careful.
she really tightened up in here, and I know she's working digitally along with the traditional.
I like the texture. They just don't match.
Right, and so one way to make it match and to keep this painterly look would be to really spend the same amount of time on the eye and the beak on the on this seagull, and then you
Yeah.
can let the wings kind of maybe go away a little bit more, but even some more structure and feathers and stuff would really help this out. Um, and there's a definite balance to be kept between that painterly and the more tight feel to it.
Yeah. And don't forget it to keep the threat so they can work on the ocean, make it a little more dramatic.
Right. Okay, so and then we have kind of more of a comic book or graphic novel approach to this idea, and this one demonstrates a lot of nice rendering. I would say one thing to keep in mind on this is that you're getting into, and this is Chip. He's got a ton of detail in these mountains way in the background. And yes, if you were in Alaska and you were looking at the mountains, this is one thing I tell myself when I'm illustrating. If I'm looking in a place where I can see long distances, if I focus on that mountain back there, I will see tons of detail. But if I'm in the midst of an activity or an action with other animals, then the background is going to tend to blur in my mind. I'm not focused on those background mountains. So when you render, think about simplifying things that are in the distance that don't matter as much, because what they do is they end up complicating your overall image. That's a long way of saying that.
I'll do a couple of quick hits on this one.
Okay.
I think the storytelling is quite good. I don't think it needs actually any of the text in there because the characters are actually showing the story quite nicely. So
Yeah.
I would say get rid of the text down here. So you don't need it. The next thing is to look at the individual composition within the frames. You guys watch out for I don't know how else to say this. I call it like the newscaster kind of look, where you've got two talking heads, two people looking at each other on the same plane, and the same thing exists in this middle panel where there's three characters. They're evenly spaced, and they're just so isolated. They're not really relating in any kind of dynamic way.
Mm-hmm.
So watch out for just making it look like a kind of a newscast where there's two characters
Yeah,
right
so
there, three.
one thing that I'll try to do in that situation is put one behind this ice and then one large in the foreground, which is that foreshortened view looking from behind the character, looking past the character, which is hard to draw, but it's a lot more dynamic. Okay, I'll let you talk
Love
first on this one.
my gut reaction to this is I really really like it, and
Yeah,
I know that's not quantitative on any kind of art thing or anything, but it looks great. We've got great character design. We've got great value control. I love the lighting. I think you could even soften some of this background back here, or pull out the crop tool like I was talking about on a couple of the other ones, and zoom in just a little bit. We don't need to get just where the mouse and the big giant guy are full frame, but I think you could come in a little bit and be a little more subtle with those. There you go. Those mice in the background. That's a lovely piece, and maybe I'm wrong about that because I don't know. I just think it's a great piece. The art style doesn't feel totally finished to me. So I would spend another basically hour or two just massaging what you need to in this focal point, and then
mm-hmm.
maybe just blur out a little bit more of this. You don't have to get soft edges where it looks like airbrush or something. But this piece is a winner. Love the design here. So I would definitely carry this to a full finish.
If I were going to do a paint over on this one, the one thing that I would probably focus on is toning down all the light in the background up here, because I feel like that takes us out of the immediacy of of the drama of what's really going on in the foreground. And I would maybe lighten up this mouse a little bit too. Instead of a black mouse, you've got these lighter colored mice, which are really, really beautiful shapes, and that you could, everyone
And
could
color.
could learn a lot from looking at how stylized and simplified these little mice shapes are. But I feel like this one really gets lost, and that's the most important mouse. So, and I realize why you darkened it, and that was to um, highlight the key. But I think if you could find a happy medium where maybe you go just a light enough to where we see more of the silhouette of the mouse, and then the key is still bright. And I agree with Lee. I would zoom in and show more and show less of the stuff above. So really nice.
Carry that a little further. Put that in your portfolio. That's a nice one.
Yeah. Okay. And then this is Sin, I guess is how you say. Um, and my initial impression on this one, we can't talk about everything. For me, I just want to talk about composition on this one and not concept, even though concept is the first thing we should worry about. For me, it's that again got those two double focal points. So you've got these two equal spots of red, these two characters, one on one side, one on the other, and that's compositionally it's the hardest thing to design. It ends up being boring, and the reason for
This is
that
that,
is
that newscaster layout that I was talking about
yeah.
when you're
So
not
you're looking here or here or here or here, and you're bouncing back and forth. And a more pleasing eye movement goes in a triangle or a circle. Um, and then maybe there's some secondary and tertiary points of interest, but in general right now we're just bouncing back and forth, and that's just really hard to create an image. Again, your job is to create an image that's going to make an art director go, oh, I've got to use this person. I've got to find a project to use this person on. Let's see, we're getting noise from somewhere. Is that from you, Lee?
No, that's what I was looking for. Somebody's got their.
But I don't see it on here. Oh, it's gone.
Huh,
Okay.
the ghost.
Yeah. So do you want to hit this one?
Just one quick thing. Since you covered the composition, I agree. This is that newscaster kind of thing where there's two characters on the same plane, so watch out for that. I think this artist is doing great in terms of their individual shape design. I like the characters quite a bit,
Mm-hmm.
but like one of the other ones that we were talking about, I don't understand why this robot would be surprised about this character. Is it because they're young? If that's the only hook, that it's a younger kid instead of an old scientist or something, I don't know.
Yeah.
Um, I just don't know why they would be surprised that
To
this was the rescuer.
to
So a little more.
to be fair to everybody, personally, I felt like Jake's concept was really hard.
Heck yeah, it was.
I
It was really
so,
hard.
I'm not saying that Lee could do any better.
Oh yes, I can. What I'm giving you guys is the best prompt tonight. You're gonna love it.
Okay.
It's a hard one. No, it would be hard. This assignment would be hard for Will. It would be hard for me. Absolutely. I wouldn't even try to say that it would be. This would be an easy one.
Right. So this one's kind of neat in that they changed the concept, but it's not good because they changed the concept. But they changed it in a way that actually works. But I feel like the only reason it works is because of the flag, um, which might be all right.
That's good.
I think conceptually it actually hits the irony part pretty well because how is
It's funny.
yeah, how are they going to be able to rescue
It's a great moment.
this rabbit?
I think the concept is there. I think the execution leaves a little bit to be desired because we got two different rendering styles. Again, one on one character and a completely different rendering style on the boat.
Yeah,
So it's not really living in the same world.
right.
But I love this little dingy boat coming off the back of it is hilarious
Yeah,
compared to the big character. So I would keep working on that. That's a funny little moment, and
it
so I can
is.
tell this person is moving in the right direction. Get the art working at
Yeah.
the same level as your concept.
Yeah, and by that, what I think Lee, you're saying on the two different styles of concept is you've got this more painterly feel out here, and then we've got this hard edged line work on the big stuff, and it's got to stay consistent. It's got to be the same style throughout. Then on this one, I guess I'll speak to. How about I speak to the art, and then you speak to the concept? Is that
Sure.
cool? So my biggest thing is when you're drawing kids, they have to be cute. An editor is they're always going to be looking for kids to be cute, almost always. I've never heard an editor go, your kids are too cute. They need to be more masculine or ugly, you know. And I feel like where you have this severe eye socket hole and the severe cheek coming up, it puts the kid in more of a, I hate to say it, but a little bit more of a mutated um, body. And I just feel like an editor is going to reject that. Overall, I think the artwork is beautiful, and I love the lighting, and I love the feel of the silhouette and stuff. And I just feel like there's a drawing style for this kid, or proportions for this kid, that will make it really sing art-wise.
Yep, totally agree with that. Conceptually, I think this thing's working on a number of levels. I do want to talk about the payoff that we get from this. And you know, there's two different kinds of work you can give the viewer. You can give the viewer work where the viewer doesn't know what's going on and can't figure it out, and that's the bad kind of work as an artist, you're giving the viewer. In this case, it's the good kind of work where I'm looking, I see the bird, and then I see the feather in his pocket. And then it forces me to do a whole story about what happened and put this whole thing that happened previously together, which is a very, very smooth move. And I think it's really well executed.
Yeah.
So it's cool. It made me do a little bit of work and think about their relationship. The second you have two characters, people all automatically give them a relationship. And I think because of the feather, it ties in that relationship a little bit better versus this random bird coming in and like, oh, cool, it's a rescue bird. You give them a relationship, and that's really smart, and I think it's working well.
Okay. Okay, so next, do you want to go first on this one?
No, I would. I don't know where to start on a piece like this. I think Jake would know, but I'm such a painterly kind of person. It took me a long time to figure out what was going on.
Yeah, it's going to be very rare that let's just speak to this. I think maybe what might help the most on this one is, and I don't know if this is finished, but people are starting in all different places, and I think it's important to know that if you're illustrating for children's books or for children's publishing, it's very rare that you're going to have an editor that's going to be fine with like a contour line style. They're going to want tonal values in there and or color, and so I think that's one of the things that's hard to look at right now. Right now it looks like a page out of a coloring book, and so it either looks not finished or the wrong style for illustrating a children's book. So I'll just leave it at that, and in the sake of trying to get through so we actually can finish in a couple hours, we're just going to keep moving. This one really hit me. I really like this one a lot. I felt like the concept came through right away. I think what is set up on here really quickly is this poor raccoon needs to be rescued. We know where he or she is. We know what the problem is. What's that?
Yeah, he has to get out. I mean, you said it exactly.
Yeah, he has to get out. Bam, we know right away. We can even see that he's been making marks on the glass for how many days he's been in there. And we can also see this other character is figuring out if he's going to be able to rescue him. Not sure if he's scared. I think that would make the concept a little bit better is, if the bear's rescuing the raccoon, I think if it were me doing this, I would take an attitude of either they're friends or the raccoon's going to get eaten by the bear. So the raccoon's licking his chops, and the bear's licking his chops, and the raccoon's scared, something like that, right? Because I mean, like that's what you do when you go to a machine is you order food, and I'll bet that's what the concept was on this one. I wonder if David's here.
Oh, I think the bear looks like he has a kind of a sentimentality towards the raccoon. Doesn't look aggressive in any way.
Right.
I think they're friends. Is that what you were saying?
No, I'm thinking it's the other way because he's going to get some food.
No. That's why I think this one is so good. Is that the raccoon is in a position of food in a vending machine, and yet I go. We're getting a couple people chiming in on the text or on the chat, seeing what they think it is. That I don't feel like there's any threat at all from this bear, and so I love that relationship. That it's so easy to go that direction.
Right.
That the bear, it's a vending machine, and I think that one's too top card.
Right.
And I like that they kind of flipped that relationship.
I'm getting
now going back to going back to the other one that we just looked at a second ago with that feather, I think something could be done like that here, where you give them something. Maybe there's a little string tied around the bear's claw and a little string tied around the wrist of the raccoon to say that these characters have been together in the past.
Yeah.
And give them a
They
relationship.
need to. Yeah, I think it needs to be more clear, and they can work either way. They could be friends. Everybody, calm down. They can be friends, right? Or now, David did say in the chat that he thought about the licking his lips first, so I'm not completely off. But anyway, okay.
Good one.
Great piece. Moving along on this one. So this one again is just some sequential art, and so we have the guy looking at the spaceship coming in for a landing, and then when the spaceship arrives, instead of a human character, it's an alien. So I think that one hits on the conceptual side. Personally, for me, I think that, well, I don't know. I think this totally works. I was going to say, maybe I'm looking more for the horror show. I'm thinking it would be cool if the alien popped out and there's some danger. There's a threat of danger or something like that. But I think this works too for the story.
It's kind of funny though that I like the expectant look of the alien, almost like he expects the astronaut to be excited, and I would love to see that look of disappointment on the astronaut's gesture, where it's like, oh no, I'm not rescued at all. This is awful. I don't understand the second panel. Is that supposed to be the same ship and kind of a time switch? Will's typing, so he can't answer me there. He's got to look at the keyboard. We just learned about Will.
So, yeah, I think
do you know what I'm saying about the second panel? Is like I think that's one ship, and it's supposed to be almost like an animation effect, like we're seeing the ship coming in and it's kind of landing.
Right.
But I don't think we're pulling that off very well.
No, because it's gonna read as two ships. So you should one from the distance, so there needs to be one ship, right?
Yeah.
But I love the contrast. Great.
I just want to see the astronaut in the final piece, but I think you got a lot of stuff going on that's pretty good here.
Yeah. Maybe the astronaut in the second piece, showing him landing. I think that would be good storytelling, to show that astronaut maybe right down here somewhere, and then
there you go. Yeah, he's getting more excited as the thing's landing, and then the alien pops.
And then the alien pops.
A lot of good stuff here to work with.
This is really good contrast. Sometimes we overlook some of the things that are really working, and really nice. It's very legible. It's very easy to read and understand, and so that's working. This one again, I think that this one doesn't really hit the concept as far as the irony. We don't really understand why he's surprised that this person's coming to rescue him. So I think there's a little more storytelling that needs to happen. For me, again, on the design, it's cut in half. We've got the same size person on both sides. We've got that, what Lee calls the newscaster effect going on. And watching the news is boring. You pretty much listen to the news, but when the newscasters are up there, it's not like you're just seeing this amazing composition, right? I mean, it's you know what you're getting, so you can listen to the news. You don't have to watch it. You want to add anything to that one? Oops.
I just say go back to your thumbnails, and this would be my storyboard. I mean, everybody draws a scene like this where you're saying, here's two characters and this is kind of what's happening, but then you got to start designing it, and designing and storyboarding are two separate stages, at least for me. Jake goes right in for the kill, but I just draw like what's happening in the scene and then how am I showing that happening in the scene, and those are two separate moments for me.
Right.
And I would say lean towards that for you too. If this is step one, what is step two would be moving the camera around, trying big versus small. Maybe the camera is behind the shoulder of the person in the canoe facing the guy on shore,
Right.
maybe vice versa. So start playing with that a little more.
We go through that in our environment class and in the creative composition class. So there's
Yep.
that. Okay, here we
Thumbnail,
go.
thumbnail, thumbnail.
Um, so I didn't fully get this one right away, but it looks like there's maybe some alien stuff going on. I don't know. Did you?
I got it. I got it pretty quick. I looked at it. I mean, I think art-wise there needs to be some fixes going
Yeah.
on, but I like this concept. It has a little bit more of a realistic concept art kind of feel, which I think is what I think is really cool.
The problem, I
I
think
think
the. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say the brushes they're using and the values are making it all feel real muddled, and so it all kind of blends together. But I love the idea of the alien. I mean, we've seen it played out in different ways. This is just a little bit more realistic. I think some design work needs to happen on the alien, and different brushes. Pick some different brushes. These brushes are not working for you, but I think the concept it can be really cool here.
Mm-hmm. One of the things for me, I think the reason why I didn't get it is I couldn't tell if the alien was coming from the ship or if the guy was coming from that ship. The alien's blue, so I thought, well, maybe that's the alien ship, but I think it was just a little bit too ambiguous for me on that. I think
You could fix that with just putting like an insignia on the arm of the astronaut and putting the same insignia on the tail
right.
of the ship, and that links it pretty quick.
Yeah, I think you're right.
So just work on your design work on your characters, and watch the digital painting classes. Clean up those brush strokes because you got something going on here. Good, your proportion is good, and the overall shapes are good. It's just the paint itself is getting real muddled.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Okay, great. And then this one I thought was really nice because we've got that focal point with the red, so it's like, right away you're not gonna miss that focal point. One of the and I know I'm speaking to composition a lot on these, but I think whenever you use a single color, a single accent color that's red, you really want to avoid this center, and you're right on the edge of the center area, but you kind of get a bullseye effect with that, which is looking at a bullseye or a target is really boring. And so you really want to, and again, we talked about this in the composition class, place that apple maybe down lower or on, and there's several places in the illustration where that can work, but you want to kind of avoid the middle. But color-wise, this is working really nicely.
Can you help explain the concept to me? I didn't understand
No,
where
I
we're
didn't
going with
either,
it.
and that's why I was speaking to the composition. Um, so yeah, I didn't fully get it either. Um, so anyway, yeah. So and sometimes I think like when I was in school, I wanted to just kind of do my own thing, and that's cool. I think there's a natural if you're not good at illustrating concepts right now, don't worry about it because over time, the more you try to do this, the more you push, and the more frustration that you go through. I mean, you have to bleed for your art. You have to get frustrated. You have to get frustrated enough to think, what did I do wrong? Why didn't they really respond to my illustration? Why didn't people in the forums respond to my illustration? Why do I keep getting all these suggestions? One thing that I've learned is if you get the same suggestions from people, you're probably onto something good, and people will go, oh, I know what will fix that. And so you'll hear the same things. If you're hearing different things from every person, I know what'll fix it. A, no, I know what'll fix it. B, no, I know what'll fix it. C. That means you've got a real problem with your composition and with your concept. And you probably need to start over at that point because it just means you're not really
It's kind of
close.
all over
It's
the
all
place.
over the
Yeah.
place, yeah. So then this next one, um, I thought this was kind of funny. And I especially, the first thing that I liked about it was the color. I thought the color was really working nice. But I also really liked and really appreciated the size relationships on this one. You've got the big, huge Titanic. I mean, the Titanic was huge. Does this look like a huge Titanic? Yes. So the
Yeah.
angle works really well. And I think they got the irony really well on this one as well.
Well, I love the overall concept of this whole thing and all the design. The only thing I'm questioning is why is that little guy coming to rescue her? I want that big ship to be there because that's the irony, right? Is like this big giant ship pulls up.
Right.
Am I reading that right? Or
No,
I
no,
mean,
what are you
I think it
saying?
dilutes it.
What are you saying?
I think I think to get rid of the little, there's a little guy in the water to the lower right that's coming to rescue the stranded person.
Oh, you know what? I didn't even see that. Yeah, I
Yeah,
totally agree. I thought you were talking about the little person on the ice, and I'm like, that's the person that's being rescued by the ship
no,
that's going to sink. Yeah,
give me no credit.
sorry. It was so
No, yeah,
small, I didn't see it. Yeah,
yeah, it was a third read for me too, and I thought it really diluted it because I love the idea of somebody being on the ice. You know, it's all foggy, and then this giant ship comes out of the shadows, and that's just a glorious moment.
right,
Very cinematic, and it dilutes it heavily. Just take out your clone brush and get rid of that
right.
little guy,
I think,
and
and Russ is saying maybe for real humor, have the ship slamming into the iceberg that the guy is on. And I think that's what is going to happen. But I think that Russ is right in that what you need is more iceberg coming up over on this left here to show that it really doesn't. It looks like there's a possibility that they're going to miss. And I think that for me, the concept is that this is the iceberg that the Titanic hits. Am I right about that?
that's pretty good. If that's
I
the case,
mean,
I would get rid of that chain of the anchor.
yeah, yeah. The chain of the anchor's not working because it wasn't chained up. But I mean, for irony, if that's the concept, that's a perfect concept, really, because in my mind, because it's like, what if there was somebody living on that iceberg wanting to be
It's
rescued,
so good.
and
It's
then
so good.
yeah, it's really good,
Yeah, I think this is what Jake was intending with the prompt, like something so ridiculous, like that guy needs saving,
right?
and this situation is just so outlandish. One last thing to that artist, because they're good enough to not make this mistake, is learn to draw your ellipses. The steam barrels are basically football shaped, and the reason is your minor and major axis are not working correctly. So watch out for
Without
that.
the benefit of the draw over, you're just gonna have to figure
Yeah,
that one
go
out.
back and look at the ellipse lesson. There's a major and minor axis, and they always go at a 90-degree angle to each other. And right now that's not working. So you basically made football-shaped um, little barrels up there.
Right, right. Okay, here we
But just a
go.
side
Okay, so we laughed at this one too, and I thought this one, we thought that this one hit really well on concept. Um, that it, from what we got was this is the guy's wife that's after he's been stranded for months,
note. So
and
funny.
his wife that he didn't, that maybe he was wanting to get away from. That's kind of what we got.
Or his mom. Yeah, it's
Right.
just so funny.
Now there are some real drawing problems with this one, but without the benefit of the draw over, since we're not doing that tonight, you just have to
Yeah, we got the newscaster layout again. Just two characters on the even plane.
yeah.
Watch out for that. Great concept. Just
I
rework the
think
drawing.
what I would do for this one to change it up, and it'd be almost the same, but I wouldn't see the top of this tree. I would see this trunk really big, and I would zoom in on this guy's face so we can just see him sweating and like, oh no, and really getting in on his, making his head about 3 times bigger and having his body crop out of the picture, and then seeing her coming up the beach, waving her arms like I know you're there, kind of a thing. I think that size relationship would make it more interesting of a composition. Okay. And so here's the next one. I'll let you start it on this one.
Let me turn off
You got
that.
a phone
Oh,
call.
God,
Somebody's calling
it's
to
Trump.
complain about the fact that we're not doing drawovers.
Trump giving me a call. Um, uh, okay, so going to this one, my first just gut reaction, very, very professional finish. I think the drawing on here is great. I think the color palette on here is beautiful. So I think this person, I'd like to see more of this person's portfolio. If it's at this caliber, I think it's good. And then we get into concept, and it kind of doesn't make sense because if he's a leaf and he's a stick and he's on a tree, he doesn't need saving.
Right. Right. So the concept, it was hard for me to understand. It's again, it's got to be really clear. And and sometimes I don't know about you, Lee, but as a professional, I failed a bunch of times with concepts that just weren't as clear, and I came up with um, better concepts after the fact. Even on the book that I just did for the Kickstarter, I would sometimes I completely finished a character and then came up with a better concept for that character and redid it. Um,
Yeah.
so it's don't feel bad if we're nailing you on the concept, because um, you know you're not always going to come up with that. That to me, that's the hardest thing.
There's a comment in the chats that maybe the giraffe is trying to put the leaf back, which would make sense. And so if that's the case, it's just got to be illustrated a little bit clearer, because I didn't get that, but now that that was said, I could see that, and that makes way more sense.
Yeah. If you're going to put a leaf back in the tree, I think we need to see other leaves that are like that leaf, so that it looks, so you can, that's a hard one to pull off, I would say. That'd be a hard concept to show visually. Um,
Great style, though. I think that's where it's looking really good.
yeah. This one has some really fun stuff going on.
Yeah, love the composition on this. The big versus small.
Mhm.
It's I think it's hitting a lot of marks really quite well.
It is a nice texture. There's definitely some drawing problems, some perspective problems where these buildings, based on this height angle, need to foreshorten or need to converge a little sharper. Because if you have a flat horizon line down here, you can't have a flat horizon line up here on the top of this roof line. But other than that, some really nice stuff happening. I'm not, you know, I think the concept was changed a little bit because this guy's definitely not here to rescue him, but I think it's close enough. I don't know. What do you think about that one? He's definitely got the rescue boat, you know.
I think it's funny because he's holding the rescue boat. I mean, it's a
Yeah.
little bit nonsensical in that way, but I don't question it. I could see this as being part of a kid's book with no problem.
And Kai says the boat is supposed to be a gift. So
Oh,
I didn't get that, but
I didn't
um,
get that. I just thought it was almost like the big monster saying, "Is this what you want?" But it's just so ludicrous because the scale is so big,
yeah.
and he's in such peril.
Just
But you can tell it's a sweet monster, so I love it.
one benefit too is if when you're working with an editor, they're definitely going to help you with your concepts. And as you send in sketches, if you send something in that's not making sense, then they're going to tell you that, and you're going to go back to the drawing board and try to rework it. So um, it's not like you're going to be completely stranded out there, but you do need to realize that that's what they're looking for, is the communication first and the art second.
Yeah.
Okay, so nice job
Yeah,
on
this
that one.
this one this one would be a great one in a portfolio. I bet an art director would say, "I want to see more.
Yeah,
Looking at this."
yep. And then on this one, I felt like go
I'm
ahead.
so puzzled, but I can't look away.
Well, it's really colorful, and there's some really fun shapes. I really love this cat. I love the shapes of these ears and the little markings on the cat. I feel like overall there's just too many different saturated colors that really start to get in the way of actually comprehending the concept. Um,
Hmm.
but I feel like there are some really fun things with it, but I'm not sure exactly. We've got this space guy, and we've got an alien cat, and another alien. I just feel like there's too much going on that's confusing the concept, and I'm not getting the irony part of why this character would be really surprised that they're being rescued by this character over here. You don't seem to want to contradict me.
Well, I agree.
Okay. Okay. So,
Let me go back. So stay on this one just for one
yeah.
second. One thing, just for you guys who are struggling with color and design, pick one area of saturation. If everything's saturated, then you're not getting the effect of the saturation. All it's doing is just yelling. I mean, it's like if you read a sentence and somebody's got it all in all caps.
Yeah.
Think about where you want that placement, that emphasis, and keep that there, and then dull the rest of the stuff down. It's an easy way to think about it. I
Right.
tell my students, think about saturation as being almost like a habanero sauce at dinner. You're not going to pour it all over your whole dinner. You'll kill yourself.
Right.
So it's just a little drop, and it's just going on a small little portion. So just be careful with that saturation. Ask yourself, just back up once you got the drawing and say, what is going to get that saturation, and then stick to your plan. What
Right.
happens when students go oversaturated is they just start painting, and the plan isn't in place, and all of a sudden they step back and the
It's
whole
because
thing's
we love color. These are beautiful colors. And I think you get hung up in the idea that if colors are beautiful, use more of them. But again, what it really does is it's like every single one of these colors is saying, look at me, look at me, look at me, look at me. And when everyone's doing that, you can't look at anyone. If
yeah.
if, if a million kids are yelling for your attention, eventually you're going to go, shut up. Okay, you talk.
All
Okay.
right.
Um, this one, oh, do you want to speak first on this one? I keep going first.
I would just say that I think it's a cool image. I think it's fun design. I think the drawing's pretty good. I didn't get that either one of them need rescuing.
Right. And another thing that's tough is when you create there's really fun shapes. And the hard thing is, you've done all this work, and one of the hardest things to hear is all this work is for nothing because the concept didn't work. But really, that's unfortunately the truth. It doesn't matter how much good rendering you did and how much good coloring you did and how much time it took if the concept doesn't read. And for me, one of the things that I look for is when when you take a known object like a spyglass, but you mutate it, you need to have a reason for mutating it. It needs to make sense. Otherwise, you create this really weird object that people have to figure out what it is. And I think that's what we've got going on in this one is extra work for the viewer to decipher what is going on. You want to stay more in with objects that are understandable for your concepts. And this one just didn't work for me conceptually, but visually it was very interesting.
Yeah.
Okay. And why don't you talk about this one because you helped Kevin in the forums on this one.
Well, I want to respond to it as if I'm coming to it fresh. I did help him along the way, and some of the things that I like about it are it sets up a moment of tension, and that's what we struggle with a little bit in the forums, is originally the hands were grabbing each other and their relationship was very confusing, but we set up this moment of almost longing, and I think it's just got this really kind of wispy feel, like the moment right before death or something like that. I can't totally tell what the concept is, and if that, I guess that can be a form of rescue, that he is actually getting that relief. He's getting
Mm-hmm.
moving to a different place, as it were, and I think it's handled quite elegantly. It really worked through a lot of different versions of this, and that's what I want to talk to. We've mentioned it before. Put in some time on this thing, but he got I think a very striking looking image out of it.
Yeah, I loved it, and I got it right away, and I thought that the concept was great. So I thought it was a really interesting take on what most people are solving in a more humorous way. This one's solved in a really poignant way, and it makes you stop and think. So that's just neat.
Yeah, and the mask is a nice touch, that it's not just death coming to get you, because that could be probably a very jarring moment.
Right.
So I'm not sure who the mask is of, but just me putting the story together, maybe it's somebody that he knew, maybe it was his wife, something like that, so he can make that transition from the living world to death, and it's not so jarring. It's just a beautiful little touch.
Yep. Okay, and then on this one, we've got that newscaster composition going on. So,
Trademark that.
yeah, I mean, it's really natural to come up with that. Watch other things like, the top of the head joining forces with this line of the mountain range behind. This one's got a nice little silhouette to it, but then this one really kind of joins up there. Not exactly sure what the stuff is in the foreground. And just as a general tip is that every single thing in your image needs to be easily recognizable. Um, and when you make your viewer try to figure out what it is that you're drawing, it doesn't work. And so now, when your drawing skills are more towards the beginner end, you're going to have things like that happening. My suggestion would be whatever you're trying to convey in any image that I'm doing, I will look at still. I mean, and I've drawn things for decades, and I will in any children's book illustration I do, I will on average look at 5 to 10 pieces of reference for objects that I'm drawing, and not necessarily in the first pass when I'm doing my little rough thumbnails, compositions and stuff, but as I'm going through, when I start to refine a little bit, I'll ask myself, now I want to make sure that I'm conveying the most simplest form of this object so that it reads in a fraction of a second.
Right.
Yeah. Okay, so I'm going to move on. And on this one, I didn't understand why the irony, like, we've got this little rabbit character, and why is he surprised that it's like a sea monster? And I didn't also get rescue. It's almost like the text was, after being stranded for months, Willie couldn't believe that a sea monster came out of the water. But I don't get the rescue.
Yeah, I could see that. It's just a little bit confusing on their. I mean, they look friendly. Doesn't look like he's gonna kill him or anything.
Right, but he
So,
might just be interested and curious in looking at him. And I think that to satisfy the text, you've really got to move into a concept that really shows that. One of the hard things too of doing the concepts that we give you is we're not giving you characters, and when you're doing a children's book, you get a set of characters that you're stuck with, right? And that's both a bad thing and a good thing at the same time. Bad that you're stuck with those characters and that you have to draw those, but good that you don't bounce around from idea and concept to concept to concept. So I would suggest, as you're trying to think of the concept, really try to focus in on not necessarily the characters that are fun to draw, although that should be part of it, because as you're doing this, the more fun you're going to have, the better they're going to be. But asking yourself, does this character lend itself to telling this story? And if it doesn't, move to a character that does. And I would say on this one, you could make a sea monster that is rescuing a rabbit, but I don't see the connection, the logical connection.
yeah, I think more to focus on the concept there. Nice painting though.
Yeah. Okay, I have something I want to say about this, but you go first on this one.
Go ahead, because I'm unsure. I think just responding to the art, I like it a lot. I kind of like this washed out feeling. It almost has the feeling of being on the beach where you just want to get out of the sun, but you can't.
Super bright sun.
Yeah, so I like that, and the character design's really good. I'm just a little confused just about what's going on. So, I mean, I know that the mole is helping. It's an accidental. He came up accidentally.
And he came from the North Pole.
Walk me through it.
But for me,
Oh, I didn't see that.
yeah, for
Came from the
me,
North.
I like the concept a lot. It's a surprise because, and I think this one works conceptually because he's the accidental rescuer, right? So he didn't set out to
Yeah, he
rescue.
wasn't even
So
trying.
yeah, so they're both surprised. My thing on this, my basic thing would be the island needs to be bigger. It looks like this island is just a little lump of sand that's coming out of the turbulent ocean, and it just doesn't look like there's enough to actually be an island. I think I would pan out just a little bit and show more. I love the severity of the angle. I
Yeah.
think the angle is really interesting, but I think we could show more.
It's all in that island. If you guys want to try a little exercise, cover up the just the island up to the mole's hand. That the part above from his hand up is so expertly drawn
Yeah, it's
and
great.
just wonderful. And then if you do the opposite, cover up the mole to the hand, and that part is just not doing it for the
Right.
image. I think this is like everything else besides the island is taken to a level 9 or a 10. I mean, this is like
Yep.
pro level to me,
Yep.
except for from his hand down.
Yep.
So readdress that, and you got a winner here for sure.
Definitely. Okay, you go.
Um, this one it's funny. It's an instant read playing on a couple people have played with this real small rescuer. I think it's good. It's got a comic book feel. The first thing out at me is, even though I think we do need the earth, it's out of style.
Yeah.
With the rest of the piece, and that was the only thing that really hindered me from this image. I think it's fantastic.
Yeah. Well, okay. So how would you fix that? If you want to stay consistent and you go ahead and apply line work to the land, then
It's going to start to compete.
yeah. So for me, the way I solve it is with value, right? So I
I
would
would solve it with, but yeah,
with what?
scale
No,
doesn't have to open like that. So
oh, you mean you would show the whole Earth in a smaller Earth somewhere else?
smaller Earth, just not, and then not overlapping the character, and just
Yeah.
and not make that, because I may actually take the Earth completely out of it, because we don't need to know he's a human, so we're assuming already he's from Earth. We don't need that hit.
Yeah, I agree. And I did like the little life preserver because I think that reads as far as like rescue. Um,
Yeah, funny.
yeah, it's funny.
Well drawn too. I like the inking. I like the color balance. Just get that earth out of there, and you're good to go.
Yep. Um, this one, this one did it for me on the visuals because I think that there's a lot of really nice drawing going on. There's also a lot of nice painterly quality. I think that there's some areas that could be tightened up and areas that could be left really loose, like in the background. So I think that some of the areas, like, I've got this really tightened up little kid here. Then we've got this really painterly barbecue spit and fire. And I think that things that are in the same realm around here, they have to be.
I just lost sound.
Oh, did you?
Oh, there it goes. It's
Can you
back.
hear me?
I don't know if everybody else lost the sound during that moment, but it went out for me for some
Will,
reason.
no audio. Now back. Okay.
Yeah,
Lost.
it was weird. It's
Okay.
back.
So yeah, I'm saying on the barbecue spit, that needs to be tightened up a little bit. And then on this boat, because this boat is really close to us. However, this boat is. And the other thing I might say on the boat really quick is, you've got recognizable crab, recognizable palm fronds, recognizable chest, recognizable island, recognizable kid, and then we've got this really crazy architecture or construction for a boat.
Will's audio's going out again. You guys, your audio's out.
Is it out again?
No, it's still out.
Hmm.
Uh-oh. Oh, there you are.
Maybe I'll go out and come back.
Okay.
Yeah, it says it.
Wait, do I need to do anything with that?
Wait, it's telling me my audio connection is restored.
Oh, good. Okay.
So let's see, because GoToMeeting told me that they lost my audio and then that it's back. So if it does it again, I'll leave and I'll come back. So did you catch what I was saying on this boat in the foreground, or did we miss that?
We missed it, but were you saying that it's just kind of blended into the island in terms of value and its overall drawing?
Yeah, so it's too blurry, but the bigger thing I think is that it's a weird, really odd construction. So we have a really understandable crab and chest and palm fronds and kid and spit and cute little bunny character, some sort of a. But then this boat is drawn. I don't understand that boat. And so you need to use really recognizable objects throughout, because this is in the foreground and it should be one of the most easily understood and legible objects.
Yeah. And to add to that, what Will's saying there is that's the moment where I really start to have fun with illustration, because you got a good concept. The kid's teddy bears come in to rescue him, great. And you got a nice composition too. So then, as you start to decorate it with the little things that are there, when there's only 3 or 4 things in an image, those things become very, very important. The emphasis gets put on them.
Right.
So, the treasure chest makes sense. The little fish over here cooking on the barbecue makes sense. Like Will said, the boat doesn't make sense, but the question I would ask you is what boat do you get the best reaction from? There's a couple of ways you could go with that. Like, the teddy bear isn't going to have a boat. Just he's not going to own a boat. So what's going to push that punchline a little bit more? Did the teddy bear build a boat out of stuff in the garage, like he had to makeshift it? Did he commandeer like a big yacht or something? And so there's a lot of different reactions you can get based on what boat this bear has. So then it goes. So I guess what I'm emphasizing is go back to the writing and say, even test it out on people. Like, which boat gets the best reaction. Is a funny reaction or kind of a wild reaction or whatever. But be specific with it, and that's the fun part. That's the storytelling.
Yeah. Yep. Okay. So, kind of have to jam here. So we're gonna go just a little faster.
Okay.
I really like the rendering style on this one. I did feel like it was, again, conceptually or design-wise, it's the newscaster thing again. Even though there is some angle to it, it's better. But size-wise on objects, your characters are the same size, which is a little tougher.
Yeah. Great control of the art. I agree with Will. Push that concept a little bit more. I don't know why he's surprised that this person is coming.
Right. There's more to the story.
Kind of wacky.
Yeah.
So.
But really nice art style.
Love that ship.
Yeah.
This one I didn't think related to the prompt enough. I think the art style is great.
Yeah. Yeah. The art is fun. And it's a fun idea that the island's a boat, but I don't think it really answers the concept or the prompt. And
so this one took me a second, but I think this artist needs to work on the art style a little bit because this concept is great. Is that if I'm reading this correctly, the guy is rescuing himself? Future guy is coming back to the risky past guy?
Interesting.
I like that. I like that concept a lot. That's a moment that we can all kind of get on board with in terms of the irony or the reaction that we're going to get from a piece. That you see yourself getting off a boat or a ship to come rescue yourself.
Sarah's here.
Awesome.
I wonder if Sarah could answer the question. Did Lee get it right? Is he there to rescue himself? And
It's got to be. Everything's there in both characters. So.
Sarah, are you there? You can unmute yourself.
Or she could just type in the chat.
Yeah, or
it's right. I'm right. I'm always right.
Did she say?
Yeah, she said that. Ha! I'm right.
I couldn't see it anyway. You're wrong, like usual.
She says.
Oh,
yes,
there it is.
right.
Okay, I saw it. Yeah. Okay, great. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a fantastic concept. I feel like the art isn't there yet on this one in terms of setting stage for the drama, and the lighting on the characters isn't consistent with the environment, and the style isn't consistent between the environment and the characters. So work on the art style.
Conceptually or compositionally, she's got some really nice compositional elements. Look at this big, huge tree that's got these vines coming down. That's really interesting. And then this character is a lot bigger than this character, so. There are a lot of things that are working. These portals aren't in the newscaster composition where they're the same size right across from each other. There's some interest going on there.
Very creative though.
Yeah.
Good solution there.
Yep. So I thought this was funny because it's kind of the twist, right?
Yeah.
That's kind of what I got out of it, right? Instead of Rapunzel being rescued, it's the prince that's being rescued by Rapunzel or by a fairy or something like that, and he's got the long beard hair. I thought this was really fun.
Yeah, nice shape design too on all the thorns and the rendering of the beard is quite beautiful.
Right.
I think that the guy and the beard and the castle and the thorns are all awesome, which leaves the rescuer something to be desired. I feel like she's stiff and not as executed as confidently as the rest of the piece.
Yeah, I agree. Okay.
Great looking work.
Yep. And then this one, it's got some really nice drawing as well. I really wish Jake was here because I think he could really give a better critique on this one. But I felt like, this is some high level stuff. You got some, this flying ram that's really convincing, that's coming towards us, going away from us down here. Really nice size variation with this huge head, and then you've got some really nice stuff.
Great pen work, man.
Yeah.
That's just beautiful.
Yep.
The reaction of the guy in the first one seems a little out of step with what's happening in the scene, because the creature's so big on the scene at this point that the guy looks like he hasn't even noticed it really happening yet. You see what I'm saying, Will?
Yeah.
in that first scene. And so if I was going to have this first scene, which I think is quite lovely, I would make that creature very small in the background. Maybe have one more small little square
Mm-hmm.
above it in terms of a panel, and just have him almost as a silhouette, just barely more than a silhouette, and have the guy kind of glancing over. And that's the moment he's kind of making that connection, and then you get the bigger scene. And if you're going to do that, you're going to change his pose in
Yep.
that bigger panel.
Yep. I agree. Okay.
Really good art style though, pro all the way.
Yep. This one, I think that again, this one is a little bit confusing. I thought there's some really fun colors going on in here, these warms and cools. But I feel like compositionally, you've got this really strong implied line from this line right here, running straight down through the character, and you kind of want to avoid that. What it does is it really eliminates the need for this area off to the side. You're not really utilizing that area. As far as concept goes, I don't know. How did you feel about this one, Lee?
I didn't understand it.
Yeah, I think I think you just need to really kind of think about the concept more before you get going. It's really fun, and like I've got drawers full of paintings that I've done where I just started diving into the painting and without really thinking about the concept. And I think
Yeah,
that
a little too much rendering before getting the elements of what you're doing worked out
yeah.
here. There's some lovely little moments within this scene.
There are
You
these
know,
little colors and spots and things. And the funny thing, if I think back, I remember being in art class and being really frustrated because I worked really hard and really long, and the class was just kind of tearing my piece apart. And I'm thinking, I spent so much time, and I thought this looked really good, and it did look really good, but there was no concept. And so, yeah, concept first. Can't stress that enough.
concept and then design and then value and then color. And if you
Right.
guys stick to those steps, you'll be great.
That's right. Okay, so this one, it looks like the owl might have gotten tangled up in the kite and got hung upside down, and he's got the blind mice coming to rescue him. So I think there's definitely an attempt on this one to hit the concept. Um,
Yeah,
for me, I thought on this one, what might have been kind of funny is to show that the blind mice are going to cut something they shouldn't. And that could be a little dicey. Do you know what I mean? Like it could be dicey, but I mean like that's the whole point of the blind mice, right? Is that they're going to screw up, and I think you need to be more deliberate in showing how they're going to mess this up, and show like a lot more concern on the owl's face that something's going to go wrong. Um,
that's really funny, Will. I think that's great. I don't know if they were intending that, but I think that's a hilarious twist.
yeah, I think that would
On this one, if you got this Mission Impossible kind of moment, the first thing I think of, again, I've said it on a couple of other people's work, is the storyboard. Like this seems like the storyboard. There's a mouse, and he's coming down, he's being lowered by the rope. This doesn't seem like the finished illustration to me in terms of where you could go with this thing, with him coming down and a little bit more of an upshot on the owl and the mouse, or whatever you want to do compositionally. But I feel like this was step one, and I want to see like the 2 or 3 drawings that would happen after this.
hmm We got some size problems too with this especially this mouse up top is about the same size as the owl, and so I think that conceptually that kind of messes with your concept. The mice are the mice huge, or is the owl tiny? You know, so so anyway, or is the owl tiny? Um, okay,
Cool concept, though. There's a
yeah,
lot there. I would go back and investigate that one because I
yeah.
think you can make a portfolio piece out of it.
Okay, so we're on our last two, and or second to the last, just to let everybody know where we are. And so on this one, maybe I'll speak to, because again, we're trying to hit the most important things. I'm not sure on concept of why he's so surprised about the person coming to rescue him, and I'm not really seeing a rescue that needs to happen. But I think what I would speak to on this one is really getting good reference for the anatomy of the hands on the girl. When you're showing a close up of a hand like that, it it really needs to be drawn really well. people will look at hands and faces more than any other uh, part in an illustration. That's what we're really drawn to. And the hands on the smaller character aren't bad. They're convincing. But that hand on that's holding up the lid looks like it could use some more looking at some reference and better drawing.
Yeah, and I think hands are the hardest thing. I'd do 100 portraits before I would attempt complicated positions of hands. I just think they're so incredibly difficult. So you're going to have to try a bunch of times. One thing that I recommend, if you're doing illustration work and you're on a deadline, God, give away my secrets and look like a hack at the same time. So this is going to be great. But if it's really important, if the hands are big and they're in the scene and I'm not stylizing the characters too much, I'll take photographs of my wife's hands, I'll scan them in, and I'll draw right on top of them. Anytime I can trace something to get there faster, I'll do it. If it's in production, and if I'm just not hitting it on like 4 or 5 sketches, I'm going straight to a photo if I can. And a lot of times what I'll do, I mean, if you guys know my work, it's not very realistic at all. I'll draw Lisa's hands realistic. I'll trace them just to really get the feel of how those things are working together, and then I'll work backwards from realism to the stylized point.
Mm-hmm.
And it becomes so easy to do that because you can see through a series of drawings where it goes off if you start going off.
Yep.
So then I'll go back to that point where it looked good and start again from that point. And so it's a good way to work.
Great point. Okay, and our final one right here. This one definitely doesn't have the newscaster composition. This is nice as far as that we've got the variation in size of characters.
Yeah.
I think
it's good.
I think for me, one of the things that's really hard to do in children's books is to really get to a point where stylistically you're telling story and you're leaving other things out. And I think one thing that an editor would look on this, they would probably comment to the point where it feels like more of a landscape painting and less like an illustration, because there's so much detail in the background. And when you put all this detail back there, it takes your eye back in here. And so you spend time as a viewer looking at all the superfluous things in these clouds. These clouds are really interesting shapes, and this sun over here and all the lines coming out of that and this foliage. But really, the story is being told right here between these two characters. So all this ancillary stuff is actually upstaging or confusing the concept that you're trying to convey. And that's a hard thing to figure out is how to leave, what to leave out and how much to put in. I don't know. What do you think about that, Lee?
Yeah, it's really hard. You have to play with I like doing an image like this and then going in Photoshop and really just pulling and playing with the crop tool. The second you go too close, then all of a sudden me and Will are saying, "Oh, we need more of the scene."
Right.
So you just got to play with it. There's going to be a sweet spot there,
right,
where it's not too close and it's not too far.
Right.
The main thing is, are the rest of, even if you're the camera zoomed out, is how are the other things in the image contributing to the image? That's the big question.
Right.
And right now I think what Will's saying is it feels like individual parts that aren't playing well together.
Right.
Each of them is nice and
really
right.
cool locust. Is that a locust flower, or with whatever flower goes with the lily pads? It's beautiful, and the color is beautiful, and the color really works well with the orange of the cat. However, it's not important. And so, because it's all by itself pretty much, I mean, you got little hints of it in these other flowers, but it's so interesting that if you cropped in, that could be a picture right there. And it's too interesting. As far as the concept goes, I think the concept is really funny. And I think he's got the irony in there that we were talking about.
Now, I want to add something to this one, and I don't know. I think Warren's here in the chat.
Yeah.
And I'm not necessarily asking this as a question, but I want to ask the rest of you guys. I feel like there's an element that's drawn here. Some parts of it are drawn, and then I feel like there's elements that are like a photo that have been kind of painted over, but kind of not. And it's calling attention to itself in terms of the art style not meshing that well. Are you thinking that same way? Because that flower looks like a flower that hasn't been painted from scratch. It's a different style than the rest of it.
Mm-hmm.
And so yeah, not to pick on this one, but I see it in a lot of them, and you guys got to be careful of that. It doesn't really work that well. If you're going to do collage, it needs to be an obvious that it's collage, but like pulling like one photo of a tree into an image that where the rest of it's painted does not work. It
Yeah,
never works.
and it takes it into a different style, and that's the problem with it is you can draw this, you can, and if you can't draw it right now and you can't figure out how to draw it, you will be able to draw it. And so you need to start simplifying those parts and making them work in your style because everything kind of needs to work together. This would be a fun one to do a paint over on. I really like the size variation. I think conceptually he's got it there.
Yeah, it's great.
The
And
last
water is
person,
just okay.
yeah,
So cool.
the last person this mouse wants to see is the cat show up. Okay, great. So that's it, and then we're going to show our winner for tonight. And so I need to do
Do your drum roll.
what's that?
Do your drum roll.
Yeah, we got to have a drum roll, and I got to find the image that we chose. And there it is right there. All right, so here we go. There we go. And that's David.
So awesome.
Yeah, David Macias. And there was a few that I looked at that could have won too. So don't, if you didn't win, I hope you don't feel too bad. That just know that there was about 3 that I was really looking to choose from. So
I love that one.
yeah, me too.
So good.
We agreed on this one. So okay, great. So Lee, do you want to go over the prompt for August?
Absolutely.
And I will share my screen with you, or let you take over the screen.
Show my screen. All right, so this is our. Can you see my screen?
Yep.
Okay, so this is our prompt image, and let me go over what the prompt actually is. If I can actually find my cursor, there it is. So I'm going to let you guys off the hook a little bit this time with doing a hard concept. This one is a character design assignment. You are going to redesign 4 characters from The Wizard of Oz. This month's challenge is all about character design, so I do want 4 of them. They don't need to be the main 4. In other words, Dorothy and the lion and all that. It can be any characters as long as there's 4 of them. I don't need a background. Don't waste time there. It's a character design challenge. So this one's going to be a little easier in terms of getting going. It's harder though because the art style, you don't have all that stuff to rely on, like all the composition and the storytelling elements. What you do have is your pose and your shapes and your design ability. So this should really start to hit home in terms of those of you guys who are struggling with style, struggling with being consistent, struggling with shape language. It's really an assignment built to enhance those things. You are supposed to change what we originally know of The Wizard of Oz. In other words, don't just give me the same 4 characters that we all know. Change the style. So you can use steampunk, you can use western, caveman, futuristic, whatever you can come up with to put a spin on those characters.
Mm-hmm.
The style does not have to be animation, because a lot of people when they hear character design go straight to animation. And that's why I did a printmaking. I cannot find my cursor. That's why I did the printmaking style here, is that this is still an illustration assignment. This is not animation character design. So hopefully, does that make sense, Will?
Yes. I'm just trying to pull up something to show because I can see a question on do we want full...
It's full body. It's a full character. I'll add that into the rules. That's a great question. It is a full character, and it needs to be all 4 of them. So, like I said, the pose, the shape language, the style that you render them in, all that stuff, the storytelling that goes on to what they're wearing, how they're standing, all that. I mean, it's going to be little nuances and subtlety, and this one's not going to be such a struggle in terms of the overall concept like you guys are dealing with last month. So I do want all. They're asking all 4 in one layout. I will add that. Yes, I want all 4 of them on one page. Should they all live in the same world, style-wise? They need to be from the same project. I guess that's an easy way to put it. So maybe the witch's style is different than Dorothy's style just because of where they live in this universe, but they need to look like the universe is part of one project.
Right.
In other words, if I was going to make the witch in this print, she would be in this printmaking style even if she wasn't as steampunky, or maybe she had a different, flair to her character. It would need to look like it's from the same project.
Totally makes sense.
So it's a fun one. You guys have a blast with it. Just have a lot of fun with it. Think about your storytelling. Do a little bit of writing first, and have fun with it.
Let me just share something really quick before we sign off, if that's all right.
Sure.
And that is, as you're doing these character designs, you want to do more of a three-quarter view. And let's see, I didn't have this quite queued up, but that's a good three-quarter view. And what that means is, what a lot of people will do, and the mistake they'll make, is they'll draw a straight-on view. And I know if you're watching this on the YouTube video, you can't see what I'm doing. Me looking straight at the camera right now, you want to avoid that. You want a three-quarter view where the character's looking kind of to one side or the other, not profile, not like this, not where you can see me completely flat. So,
and look how much attitude that character has that he's showing. So it needs to have that attitude. Your three-quarter pose is going to give you the most attitude because you can show bends, you can show weight distribution. Drawing somebody, look at that character he just pulled up, Carter Goodrich, just straight from the front. It's a nice looking character, but we don't know a lot about the character standing that way.
Right. But he does, luckily, he does show the face in a little bit more of a three-quarter view, which helps. It's not completely straight on.
Yeah.
These kids are straight on, and the reason for that is because they're being surprised right in front of the camera.
Yeah. Look at that third character. I mean, it's a great series of drawings because that third one was just on the money. Yeah. Beautiful sketches there. And if you wanted to show other poses and stuff like that, I'm not opposed to it, but we definitely need to have those main four. What we're looking for, we are looking for a cohesive style to the work. We are looking for attitude in the work, your design and pose and emotion on your characters. We're looking for that. Look at Will's beautiful drawing there. So we're just looking for it to look like it's from one project, and we're looking for it to be awesome.
Yep. All right, you guys, thanks a lot. Please let us know in the forums if somebody would be kind enough to start a forum post on the July 3rd Thursday critique.
I'll do it.
So
I'll do it.
Okay, great. And then I also wanted to mention we have a conflict again for August 3rd Thursday. We are going to actually be recording videos for SVS on that day, on the 18th, and I feel like we need to shift back to the 25th.
I think that's smart.
I haven't checked with you, Lee, if that's going to work. We're going to have a planning meeting right now. we will announce it in forums, but we will have it. It will happen.
Yeah.
But just note that we do have a conflict because, we're going to be trying to shoot 6 different classes that weekend for SVS, and so that was the only weekend that kind of worked with everybody's schedule. So let us know. Thank you. Nice to see you, Jan. So let us know what you thought, and thanks a lot, and we will see you next month. Good luck.
Bye, guys.